A bit is a type of horse tack used in equestrian activities, usually made of metal or a synthetic material, and is placed in the mouth of a horse or other equid and assists a rider in communicating with the animal. It rests on the boughs of the mouth in an interdental region where there are no teeth. It is held on a horse's head by means of a bridle and has reins attached for use by a rider. Basic types. Although there are hundreds of design variations, the basic families of bits are defined by the way in which they use or do not use leverage. They include direct pressure bits without leverage. Snaffle bit uses a bit ring at the bit mouthpiece to apply direct pressure on the bars, tongue and corner of the mouth. Leverage bit. Curb bit, a bit that uses a type of lever called a shank that puts pressure not only on the mouth, but also on the pole and chin groove. Pelham bit, a single curb bit with two sets of reins attached to rings at the mouthpiece and end of the shank. Partly combines snaffle and curb pressure. Kimberwicker, a hybrid design that uses a slight amount of mild curb leverage on a bit ring by use of set rein placement on the ring. Bit combinations. A type of bridle that carries two bits, a bradoon and a curb, and is ridden with two sets of reins is called a Weymouth double bridle, after the customary use of the Weymouth-style curb bit in a double bridle. Non-curb leverage designs. Gag bit, a bit that, depending on design, may outwardly resemble a snaffle or a curb, but with added slots or rings that provide leverage by sliding the bit up in the horse's mouth. A very severe design. In-hand bits are designed for leading horses only, and include the shinny anti-rearing bit. This is a semicircular shaped bit with three rings and a port of straight mouthpiece used when leading horses. The port of straight piece goes inside the mouth, and the circular part lies under the jaw. The bit is attached to separate headpiece of the head collar, and a lead is clipped onto the bit and head collar to limit the severity. Tassel ring bit. Horseshoe stallion bit. Bits are further described by the style of mouthpiece that goes inside the horse's mouth, as well as by the type of bit ring of bit shank that is outside the mouth, to which the reins are attached. Types of headgear for horses that exert control with a noseband rather than a bit are usually called hackamores, though the term bitless bridle has become a popular colloquialism in recent years. History. The riders of early domesticated horses probably used some type of bitless headgear made of sinew, leather, or rope. Components of the earliest headgear may be difficult to determine, as the materials would not have held up over time. For this reason, no one can say with certainty which came first, the bitted or the bitless bridle. There is evidence of the use of bits located in two sites of the Botai in ancient Kazakhstan, dated about 3500–3000 BC. Nose rings appear on the equids portrayed on the standard of circa 2600 BC to 2400 BC. To date, the earliest known artistic evidence of use of some form of bitless bridle comes in illustrations of Sinian horsemen, dated approximately 1400 BC. The first bits were made of rope, bone, horn, or hardwood. Metal bits came into use between 1300 and 1200 BC, originally made of bronze. In modern times, nickel was a favored material until about 1940, when stainless steel largely replaced it. Copper, organ and sweet iron are incorporated into some bits to encourage salivation in the mouth of the horse, which encourages a softer mouth and more relaxed jaw. Bits also can be made of other materials such as rubber or plastic, sometimes in combination with metals. Throughout history, the need for control of horses in warfare drove extensive innovation in bit design, producing a variety of prototypes and styles over the centuries, from ancient Greece into modern-day use. Design and terminology. A bit consists of two basic components: the bit in mouthpiece that goes inside the horse's mouth, and the bit rings of a snaffle bit are shanks of a curb bit to which the bridle and reins attach. All bits act with some combination of pressure and leverage, often in conjunction with pressure applied by other parts of the bridle such as the curb chain on the chin, noseband on the jaw and face, or pressure on the pole from the headstool. Particular mouthpieces do not define the type of bit. It is the side pieces and the leverage these rings or shanks used to act on a horse's mouth that determines whether a bit is in the curb or snaffle family, and has a great impact on the severity of the mouthpiece. The mouthpiece of a horse's bit is the first factor most people think of when assessing the severity and action of the bit. Therefore, it is carefully considered when choosing a bit for a horse. Many mouthpieces are not allowed in certain competitions. Bit mouthpieces may be single-jointed, double-jointed, mullen, or have an arched port in the center of varying height, with or without joints. Some have rollers, rings or small keys that the horse can move with its tongue. Mouthpieces may be smooth, wire-wrapped or otherwise roughened, or of twisted wire or metal. Various types of metal or synthetic substances are used for bit mouthpieces, which may determine how much a horse salivates or otherwise tolerates a bit. A horse having a moist mouth is considered more relaxed and responsive. Commonly used metals include stainless steel and nickel alloys, which generally do not rust and have a neutral effect on salivation, sweet iron, organ and copper, which generally tend to encourage salivation, and aluminum, which is considered drying and is discouraged as a mouthpiece metal. Synthetic mouthpieces may be made with or without internal metal cable or bar reinforcement. Rubber bits are generally thicker than metal bits, but other types of synthetics such as plastics are also used. Plastic-coated bits are often the same size as metal bits, and some are flavored. Often, bits with shanks that also have single or double-jointed mouthpieces are incorrectly referred to as snaffles. Because of the presence of a shank, they are actually in the curb bit family. Effects: the mouthpiece of the bit does not rest on the teeth of the horse, but rather rests on the gums or bars of the horse's mouth in an interdental space behind the front incisors and in front of the back molars. When a horse is said to grab the bit in its teeth, they actually mean that the horse tenses its lips and mouth against the bit to avoid the rider's commands. Bits are designed to work by pressure, not pain. Depending on the style of bit, pressure can be brought to bear on the bars, tongue, and roof of the mouth, as well as the lips, chin, groove, and pole. Bits offer varying degrees of control and communication between rider and horse depending upon the design and on the skill of the rider. It is important that the style of bit is appropriate to the horse's needs and is fitted properly for it to function properly and be as comfortable as possible for the horse. In the wrong hands, even the mildest bit can hurt the horse. Conversely, a very severe bit in the right hands can transmit extremely subtle, nuanced signals that cause no pain to the horse. Commands should be given with only the quietest movements of the hands, and most steering is done with the legs and seat. Thus, instead of pulling or jerking the horse's head to change direction by force, a skilled rider indicates the desired direction by tightening and loosening the grip on the reins. The calf of the leg is used to push the body of the horse in a certain direction, while the other one is used as a pivot and to provide the correct amount of impulsion required to keep the horse moving. Likewise, when slowing or stopping, a rider sits deeper in the saddle and closes the hands on the reins, avoiding jerking on the horse or hauling back on the reins in a heavy-handed fashion. Change of position of the seat and the pressure of the rider's seat bones are also extremely useful for turning, speeding up and slowing down. There are many factors in the bitting equation which must be considered to get a true estimate of the action and severity of a bit. Although some mouthpieces are marketed as correction bits or training, the terms are relative. The bit always rests on the sensitive bars of a horse's mouth. A hard-handed rider can make even the mildest bit painful and is killed. Light-handed rider can ride in a much harsher mouthpiece without damaging the mouth or causing any distress in the horse. Additionally, the shank ring has a great impact on the action of the mouthpiece. Snaffles are generally considered the mildest, curbs and gags the harshest. It is difficult, therefore, to compare a harsher type bit with a mild mouthpiece, and a milder type bit with a harsher mouthpiece. In general, however, the mouthpiece can have a marked difference on the severity. Snaffles with twisted wires are never considered mild, whereas a pelham with a low port could. Snaffle are direct pressure bits. All bits work with either direct pressure or leverage. Bits that act with direct pressure on the tongue and lips are in the general category of snaffle bits. Snaffle bits most commonly have a single-jointed mouthpiece and act with a nutcracker effect on the bars, tongue and occasionally roof of the mouth. However, any bit that operates only on direct pressure is a snaffle bit, regardless of mouthpiece. Curb or leverage bits. Bits that have shanks coming off the bit mouthpiece to create leverage that applies pressure to the pole, chin, groove and mouth of the horse are in the category of curb bits. Most curb bit mouthpieces are solid without joints, ranging from a straight bar with a slight arch, called a mullen mouthpiece, through a ported bit that is slightly arched in the middle to provide tongue relief, to the full spade bit of the vaquero style of western riding, which combines both a straight bar and a very high spoon or spade extension that contacts the roof of the mouth. The length of the shank determines the degree of leverage put on the horse's head and mouth. Again, a bit with shanks and leverage is always a curb-type bit, even when it has a jointed mouthpiece more commonly seen on a snaffle. All shanked bits require the use of a curb chain or curb strap for proper action and safe use. Combination designs. Some bits combine both direct pressure and leverage, the most common examples being the pelham bit, which has shanks and rings allowing both direct and leverage pressure on a single bit and is ridden with 4 reins. The Kimberwicker, a hybrid bit that uses minimal leverage on a modified snaffle-type ring combined with a mouthpiece that is usually seen more often on curb bits, ridden with 2 reins, and the double bridle, which places a curb and a snaffle bit simultaneously in the horse's mouth so that each may act independently of the other, ridden with 4 reins. Another bit that combines direct pressure and leverage in a unique manner is the gag bit, a bit derived from the snaffle that, instead of having a rein attached to the mouthpiece, runs the rein through a set of rings that attach directly to the headstool, creating extra pressure on the lips and pole when applied. Usually used for correction of specific problems, the gag bit is generally illegal in the show ring and racecourse. Idiomatic usage. Bits and the behavior of horses while wearing bits have made their way into popular culture outside of the horse world. Took the bit in his teeth, a phrase that describes a horse that sets its jaw against the bit and cannot be controlled, is used today to refer to a person who either is taking control of a situation or who is uncontrollable and casts off restraint. Champing at the bit, also worded chomping at the bit or chafing at the bit, meaning to show impatience or burst with energy, refers to a tendency of some horses, when impatient or nervous, and especially if being held back by the riders, to chew on the bit, often salivating excessively. This behavior is sometimes accompanied by head tossing or pawing at the ground. because this behavior was most often seen by the general public in horses who were anxious to begin a horse race in the days before the invention of the starting gait. The term has become popular in everyday speech to refer to a person who was anxious to get started or to do something, because some impatient horses, when held back, would also occasionally rear. A related phrase, rearing to go, is also derived from observations of equine behavior.